Welcome back, mamas. Y'all, today we are going to talk about the word of the year. Whether or not you have picked one yet or not, I am just going to give you my reasoning behind why I believe it is so important as a mama to pick a word of the year, how to do that, what it might look like. I'm going to tell you what my word is, and hopefully you'll be inspired to pick your word for this year as well. So let's get to it. Do you wish you had control of your days, that you had a rhythm, but instead feel overwhelmed, scattered, and like there's never enough time? You're in the right place. I'm Danielle, a recovering workaholic, wife, and stay-at-home mom of two girls. I've learned how to reclaim my time and find purpose and freedom so I can be present with my kids and feel like myself again. Here, we embrace where we are, but we don't stay there. So if you're ready to trade the chaos for clarity, the guilt for grace, and the endless to-do list for aligned flow, grab the kiddos a snack and toss in that laundry because I know you're multitasking, and let's do this because your time, your purpose, and you matter. Okay, mamas, so we are into January now, and you have probably heard many people talking about their word of the year, right? Whether or not you have picked one yet or not, as we talked about last week, I still had not picked mine. I have picked mine now, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I go about doing that, why I believe it is so important, and why, as moms, I believe we should be setting intention for our days, setting intention for our lives, why it's important that we pick a word of the year. Okay. So, an intention is something that we talk about on this podcast a lot. I really do believe that setting an intention for things is very impactful because when we don't set intention, especially if you are like me and with my ADHD brain, then it can just get super chaotic when we do not have something to ground in, when we do not have an intention to come back to and remind us kind of what we're doing and why. And so the word of the year kind of goes in this same vein. So I'm going to start with a quote here. This one is from John Maxwell, who says, "An intentional life embraces only the things that will add to the mission of significance." An intentional life embraces only the things that will add to the mission of significance. When we set intentions, I believe that we cling on to, we embrace things that are going to add to that intention. You know, it's like one of those things where it's your reticular activating system, okay? This is totally scientific, right? But this is how our brains are wired and how they work. When you set an intention for something, then you are more likely going to find things that are going to support that intention. The reticular activating system is something where I'm sure you've heard this before or you've seen it in practice where, you could be, let's just say car shopping or something, right? Like you're shopping for a car and you are looking for a Ford Explorer, okay? And you're like, I don't know, I think I want a red Ford Explorer, right? But I don't even know if they have red Ford Explorers. And how many people even have Explorers? And, I've never really known anybody with an Explorer. I wonder if they're good cars and whatever. The next thing you know, after you have been looking at, researching, learning about Ford Explorers, you're going to start seeing Ford Explorers everywhere. And if red was the color that you chose, then you're probably going to start seeing red Ford Explorers everywhere. Your brain will just go to them. It will pick them out. You could see tons of cars on the street. And if there is a red Ford Explorer, your mind, your brain is going to go there. I recently was car shopping for my husband for a Jeep Grand Cherokee. And I was like, I don't really think anybody really has those cars. Well, lo and behold, there's literally 4 people on my street that have a Jeep Grand Cherokee on just my street that I never noticed until I was shopping for him. Okay. It is crazy how our brains work. It is very scientific. And so when we set intentions for our lives, our brains are going to find what we're looking for. When we set a positive intention, when we decide a word of the year, this is going to bring that word into your life. For me, I am picking my word of the year this year as reset. Okay. And this to me is a little bit like, why am I picking reset, right? Like it's not something that I thought of as like a sexy word or some word that is like really I can get behind and it like motivates me or anything like that. Reset, when I looked it up, and I'm going to tell you, I guess I'm going to back up and kind of tell you how I go about finding my word of the year so that you can find your word of the year. If you have not done that yet, I really believe it is important. And how I do that is I typically write words down that come to me, right? I write them down and I look at them and I kind of see which ones I resonate with. Well, this year, when I was doing that, I was like really not necessarily resonating with any of them. I had words I wanted to use, but I was like, those didn't feel right, right? And so the ones that I was writing down, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't really know if I'm resonating with any of these. The ones that I was leaning towards going with, I was actually kind of resisting. And I didn't know what was going on or how I was going to land on my word this year because I typically want them to like motivate me, right? And so that's what I was looking for. But this year, I felt like it wasn't necessarily supposed to be that. I'm in the season of rest right now. And so reset is the word that I wound up choosing. And the reason is because once I go through writing them down, the ones that I'm kind of drawn to, or I'm thinking that maybe this should be my word, I actually go and I look up the definition. I look up the definition. What does the dictionary actually say about this word? So when I looked up reset, the definition is a verb and a noun. As a verb, it says to set again differently. Like, and it gave an example, I must reset the alarm. And it says begin to do things differently after a period of rest or change. After a period of rest or change, to begin to do something differently. It also said as a noun, an instance of setting something again or differently. And it says an instance of causing a device to return to its original settings or to the numeral 0. Okay, those things resonate with me because when I think of causing a device to return to the original settings or numeral 0, that's kind of like weird. But when I thought of it in terms of myself and why I might be drawn to this word, is because it's like I'm returning back to what God gave me. I'm returning back to the gifts that God gave me. I'm setting myself back to 0. I'm hitting the reset button on my life in that way where I'm taking myself back to what is it that God wants me to do? Who does God say I am? Right. And so for me, that was really powerful. And the whole begin to do things differently after a period of rest or change, that is also what I'm coming out of right now and I'm still kind of in this period of rest and change, I feel like, and I am coming out of that. And this is a reset. Another reason that I feel like I like the word reset is it speaks grace to me. It's like, when something is wrong, you press the reset button, right? Like if your hair dryer isn't working, there's a little reset button on there that you press. And when you press it, it starts working again, right? So when you do something wrong, or when you know you've made a mistake, or when you mess up as a parent, right? You can hit the reset button and start again, right? You can start again. And every single day you can start anew. Right? And you can reset. And if you made mistakes or you fell behind or whatever, it's all about grace. And that is what God wants to give me, right? Grace, but I am very hard on myself. And so I have a hard time doing that and giving myself that grace. And so reset for me can also mean that I am, I guess, like not a failure, that I can just reset and start again. And if I didn't parent the way that I feel like I should have, or I didn't handle a situation the way that I should have, or even actually in the moment, if I am not handling something the way that I feel like I should, and I catch myself with it, because I find myself doing that more often now that I'm intentional about looking for those things, then I can just hit the reset button in the middle of a meltdown or when I decide to go off the hinge, or I don't decide to, but when I'm off the hinge and I recognize that I'm off the hinge, I can just hit that reset button, take a moment and start again, right? And so for me, that definition really solidified that. So the first step is to like write it down, right? To find words that you're drawn to. It can be when someone is speaking, it can be, when you're at church or when you're listening to, an audiobook or something that someone says in passing. Like it can be anything that all of a sudden that word sticks in your head and you're like, why is that word hanging around, right? And so write those words down and then look at them on paper and have a feeling of if you're like drawn to something or if you feel like there's something to that word, then go and look it up. Look it up and see what the definition says. I even sometimes take it to the point of going to the thesaurus and looking at what is the synonyms for that word, right? Like the synonyms for a reset, the ones I really liked were transformed, improved, renewed. And I'm like, ooh, those are like sexier words, right? Like transformed, renewed, improve. Like those are things that I can like strive for to be better, right? To grow. Like these are all words that I would typically like go for instead of like reset, which is like start again and is like about almost like about making mistakes or mistakes I've made or resetting and starting back at the beginning and whatever. It's normally for me, usually about me moving forward, right? But this is in a way about me moving forward, right? So it's all about what feels right to you. And that's kind of the last step is really sitting with it and seeing what feels right for you and thinking, can I ground in this word? Like, can I take this word and set it as an intention for the way that I parent, for the way that I walk through my days? Like, what is it about this word that I really can embrace and really take hold of that I think is going to help me be a better mother, be a better person, be a better wife, be a better whatever it is that you want to be better at, right? Is this a word that you believe can help you to do that? And so those are the ways that I think are good for choosing a word of the year. I'm going to end with one quote here from Dr. Prem Jagvasky. I think that's how you say it. Prem Javaski. The fruit of life can only grow when your roots are implanted well. Being grounded is the key to being fruitful. So the fruit of life can only grow when your roots are implanted well. Being grounded is the key to being fruitful. Being grounded in a word of the year can be a key to you being fruitful because when you ground in that word, you can kind of go back to it and you can think, okay, is this in like alignment with that word? Like, am I behaving in a way where I think that word is shining through in my life? And so for me, I believe that taking the time to do this kind of work, like coming up with your word of the year, coming up with all of the things that we're going to talk about this month, right? These things kind of create these roots, these things that you can ground in, these things that you can come back to, these things that make you stronger, make you able to withstand, storms and different things that happen in your life. When you get this foundation laid of the word of the year, all of these things, like I said, that we're going to be talking about this year that are good for January to do. And also the work that we do in the prioritization clarity calls and in my coaching, this is all foundational work that creates this root system, if you will, that creates this ability for you to withstand that you can come back to. You can know you're rooted and grounded in these things so that you can check yourself, right? So that you can filter decisions through them, so that you can have a way to look at situations and a way that you know that is important to you, that is in alignment with who you are to come back to, right? To root in, to ground in. And for me, reset can seem a little weird, but also also, when I really think about that starting at zero and who does God say that I am, and coming back to that, that is something that I can hold on to. That is something that I can ground in. That is something that I can go back to each and every day or each and every time that I am feeling a trial or a decision or whatever it is. Who does God say I am? Reset back to zero. And what does that look like? What does this decision look like from that lens, right? So for me, this is how I do my word of the year, why I believe it is so important for you, and why I am advocating for you to take the time. And hopefully this has been helpful so that it inspires you to go to grab a pen and paper, to start writing down some words, do some reflection, look them up, and just see which one is speaking to you. This does not have to be this huge deal. It doesn't have to take a lot of time. Like, just do it when you can. Write the words down as you hear them. Look at them throughout the month, and then see which one is speaking to you by the end of the month, and just pick it. Right? Just pick it so that you can root in something, right? And this word can guide you for the rest of this year, which doesn't have to be like this huge task. It can be just this feather in your cap almost, this grounding, this root that you plant, right, in this word. But you don't have to give it so much weight that it feels like pressure to do this. So if you need any help with this or anything else that I speak about, please visit prioritizewithpurpose.com, and sign up for a prioritization coaching call. I would love to walk through these things with you and help you on your journey to becoming the woman, the mother, the wife, the person that you want to be. Okay? So till Thursday. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, Mama. If so, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and then hit share and send this to a mom who needs this in her day. I'll meet you right here on Thursday. Keep smiling, y'all.